It is now my pleasure to introduce our next panel, which is on the sharing economy. We have two different presenters. Sunny, can you advance the slide? Today, they will each present back to back, after which we will have some time for Q&A. First up will be Evan Maynard, who is founder of Gear House, Seattle's only community-owned outdoor gear rental library, and something called Kotu, which I may or may not be pronouncing correctly, which is not the topic of today's presentation, but I took a quick look at the site and seems another tool to address climate change. And then Lux Gypsum, they are the founder of the Giving Room Project, a new mutual aid initiative centered in South Seattle. Again, these two will present back to back, and then we will have some time for audience Q&A. And I encourage you to drop questions as they come to you in the Q&A chat. And now, my pleasure to introduce Evan.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Evan, and I am the founder of Gear House, as well as Kotu, which was the prior experience, also in the sustainability space. We are on a mission to reinvent gear rental. You can check us out at joingearhouse.com.
Evan, your audio is a little inconsistent. If maybe just crank it up a bit or project a little bit more.
Sure, let me put a mic on.
Okay.
See if that works.
How about now? Is that better? Oh, I've lost everybody.
Yes, it's so much
that's
better.
Good, that's
Thank you
good.
so much.
Cool. So founder of Gear House, located in South Lake Union in Seattle. We launched in September of 2021 and on a mission to reinvent gear rental. But probably more importantly, we are a community hub for getting outside. So we're one-stop shop, whether you need friends, classes on how to go do something, adventures to go do with people, or gear. And that's kind of interesting to present it that way because we're here for sharing economy, and sharing friends is not the same climate impact as sharing gear. But that's also what's really important is what we found through Kotu and through Gear House is that first you have to give, you can compete on something people need, which is gear, but it's much better to offer something people want. So anybody can go buy gear, but it's much harder to source a community of friends that have similar ideals, especially in kind of the Pacific Northwest, which is a city of introverts in general. And so what we found is Gear House is much better as a community hub. And we start with that before we even get into the parts that allow us to solve kind of the gear ownership point of thing. So I started Gear House to be an example of better business. And really, we were starting with the seed of how do you get people to buy less stuff? And so the goal of the only sustainable action you can really take or sustainable product you can buy is nothing. And we want people to buy less things, but you can't just tell people to not buy things. They do have needs. And so you have to give them a compelling alternative. And we believe that we can make gear rental a much better experience than even gear ownership. By adding in community and all these other things that you're missing when you try and get outside. The first step is to operate as a demo experience. So we really hope that if you do decide to buy, that you just skip the cheap gear phase so that we can wear gear out before it becomes obsolete in your closet. And so that when you decide you do want to get into kayaking, you don't buy 3 kayaks along the way. You just buy the one that you actually like and are going to use. People often overestimate how much they're going to use gear, and there's not a compelling alternative typically with rental. And so they are pushed to buying. So Gear House is an attempt to offer an alternative that is just better. Sustainable products must be better products to drive adoption. And so we offer a few things that make us better. It's like we're a one-stop shop. It's not a chore to come to Gear House. It's just a benefit because you get knowledge about what you're about to go do. We customize all of the gear that you're going to need, and there's nothing missing after you stop at Gear House, you're done. We also offer a bunch of classes and events. So you can see one of our events, we're actually overflowing out of our small spot space and into the alley, and people are having a great time hanging out. And this is kind of in September, kind of when we opened. So we've been doing pretty well on that side of things. But it's really important that you sell something that people want, because there's almost, people buy what they want. They don't buy things because they're sustainable, is what we learned with Code 2. And nobody really wants to buy offsets, which is kind of an interesting example of what Code 2 was selling. And if it's not convenient and it's not transparent and it's not obviously better than what they're going to go do elsewhere, then you're going to lose. And so that's really why you haven't seen all that much innovation in the rental space, is because most people don't want rentals. They want the experience. And so Gearhouse provides that experience over than it provides the gear that then people then store in their closet. Convenience is king. So that's one reason Amazon is so successful, is they became even more convenient than going to the store. But arguably when you're going outside, convenience is what your friends are doing. And so by having a bar and a place to tell your story for what happened on your trip, as well as taking care of most of the trip planning parts of getting outside, and then knowing that you don't have any gear missing and that someone backstopped and made sure that you had the right gear for that trip, we become the more convenient option by adding all those things together. I think it's really important. One thing that people don't really see as a benefit, but find that they use after signing up for Gearhouse, is that there are plenty of options for upgrading their gear and optimizing their gear. So they no longer have to run gear that is compromised for the situation. You don't have the wrong rating for tents or the wrong rating for sleeping bags. You just can take exactly what's right for that trip. Tried to cover a lot in 8 minutes or so, but there's a lot more information on joingearhouse.com. You're welcome to email me at evan@joingearhouse.com. And we would love to see you on Thursday. We're actually having a summer kickoff party from 5 to 9 p.m. We have a bunch of raffles coming in, a bunch of vendors supplying gear for raffles. We'll have beer, we'll have gear, and we'd love to hear what you're trying to get into this summer and see if we can help out or provide gear for the friends that are coming along, or just meet you and see what sustainable business can do for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Evan, and great job keeping to time on the nose. You can stay with us until the end for audience Q&A. And now I'd like to introduce Lux, the founder of the Giving Room Project. Lux.
Hello.
Hello.
I am going to be sharing my screen as well. Let me know. Oops. Is this working?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay. Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Lux. I'm really excited to be here presenting on behalf of the Giving Room Project. I'm going to start a timer to track my time. So this is our logo, the Giving Room Project, and some of our taglines for the project are give, get, gather. So that's essentially the 3 components of what we do. And everything is free and everyone is welcome. So how we do this is through our mission, which is to support neighbors in Southeast Seattle and beyond to share or to reduce waste, share resources, and build community through a mobile community space where people give and receive gently used clothing and household staples. So this is not a photo of our actual setup, but essentially what we are building out is a 7 by 17 foot trailer that will be towed by a van and set up alongside 1 or 2 pop-up tents for different events and other community spaces throughout Seattle, where people can come into the trailer and look at all of the clothing and household goods that they might otherwise need to buy and receive them for free instead and build community in the process. So ultimately, our vision is a world where resources flow to where they're needed, a world where we take responsibility for the goods that we produce as a society and make sure that they do have a lasting home and that we're producing goods that can last and be repaired and be durable. A world where we actively care for one another through sharing the resources that we have access to, a world where we use what we have, a world without waste, where everyone has enough. So I love this graffiti here, get rich or try sharing. So what we do is these are kind of our 3 main goals that I already mentioned. We reduce waste, so we divert durable items that might otherwise end at the landfill by helping them find a new home. We share resources, so we help people receive the clothing and household staples that they may need without having to pay for them. And through this, we build community. So we connect people through the spirit of giving and abundance and sharing what they can and seeing how it is to pass that directly on to someone who actually needs and can use what we no longer might need or use. So I want to share a little bit about our origin story so you can understand how this came into being. So before this timeline even starts, I have experience living in communal houses in Berkeley, California, and that's really where I came into myself and a lot of my values. And one thing I really was struck by in these spaces is how every single community house had a room where things could just be given to this room, and then you could go in and take whatever you want. It was called like the free pile or the free store. And this just made a lot of sense to me. And I was like, why is this not everywhere, where then people, you know, when changing your bed size or moving into a new space where you need different kinds of furniture or decor, you can easily kind of get those things without having to contribute to a necessary production by buying things new, and also giving a home for things that, you know, people, when they move, they have to leave a lot behind, and we're not taking responsibility for those things as a society. So I carried this vision with me and started doing some pop-up events. I did a booth at a festival where I gave away a bunch of clothes for free. And one of the things that I was really inspired by is how much people gave back. Like even just the small things, like someone would come back to me later in the festival and say, hey, I have this special journal that I've kept for a long time, I've never used, I would love to gift it back. And I felt like this space was really doing something good and something beautiful. So I had this vision to bring it more into the public and to our society. So during the summer of 2020, I met Marcus Henderson at CHOP, the Occupy protest for Black Lives and defunding the police. And Marcus is part of Black Star Farmers, which is an awesome organization that focuses on food justice. And yeah, we connected, and I started volunteering with one of their projects as well that really emerged from that protest space, which was at the time called Ujamaa Food Circle, now called Black Star Food Collective, I believe. And I shared my vision with him after volunteering one day for this public community free store space. And I was like, do you know any spaces that would be open to hosting this, or any resources to support this? And so at the time, their project was working out of Africa Town Center for Education and Innovation. And at that space, there was a room, a door there painted, the giving room. And we were having this conversation, and I noticed that door. And that same day was the day a grant was released, the Waste Free Communities Matching Grant. So Marcus helped me apply for this grant with the vision of creating a public community free store space. And then in June 2021, a couple months later, we received full funding from that grant. And shortly after, we had decided to transition from what we had imagined as a stationary community space into a mobile trailer. So just to kind of get us up to speed on where we are now, a year later, since receiving funding, you know, we had to kind of pivot our entire project plan to go mobile, which was for many reasons, just seemed like a benefit to create something long lasting that can get more public viewing and reach more communities, and not rely on like one space to host the project. And we also have grown our team. So I'm working with 3 other incredible people who are more like from this area, from South Seattle long-term. And we've fixed up a van that's gonna pull the trailer around. We have created a design for the inside of the trailer, developed our branding and our logo, and collected and organized those donations throughout this whole year. So whenever we're ready to launch, which is coming up, we will be able to fill the space with amazing goods. So currently we are physically building out the trailer, like it's actively happening, and we're going to paint the outside of it tomorrow with the support of our amazing muralist partner, Mari Shibuya. And yeah, we are starting to schedule our summer events where we'll pop up and partner with different community organizations in hosting this public space. And we're virtually building out our website and our online systems where we'll let people know what donations we're most looking for, to be able to receive volunteers to support this project, and partner with other organizations who want to bring this into their spaces. So we will officially launch our project really soon in partnership with Zero Waste Washington at our first event on June 25th, which is a repair and share focused event. So this is our team. It's me and 3 other incredible people who are helping make all of this possible. And then as well, our collaborators, Seattle Public Utilities is where the grant is through. Sustainable Seattle is our fiscal sponsor, and they've been big support throughout this. And then we're partnering with Zero Waste Washington on repair-oriented events to help save items that people otherwise would be throwing in the landfill. And also we're working on solidifying our partnership with Africa Town Center, who we're hoping to host some of these events regularly with, as well as park the trailer within their parking lot when it's not being actively set up. So if you want to stay connected with us, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We're still at the very beginning of developing our social media presence since we've been focused on building out our project and our capacity internally. But you can also go to our website and sign up for our newsletter, and then you'll get an email when everything goes live. And yeah, I'm really excited and grateful to be sharing this vision with all of you.
Thank you so much, both of you. I'm struck by the focus that both projects have on community, because obviously there are all kinds of free exchange platforms and ways that folks can find used products or whatnot. But I noted that Evan's project is community owned, and then Lux, I think about the value that you have on bringing people together and creating community around the exchange. And I wonder if each of you could speak to that. Lux, why don't you go, since you just.
Sure. Yeah, I think for me, like that really comes from the root of, I have lived in community sharing resources and also seen what can happen when generosity is the direction that we move from. And so that just feels like a really key part of like building resilience and building new economies and new futures is connecting with each other. And I believe that spaces that share resources can really help bridge communities with different levels of access to resources and build our internal, our internal relationships and our resilience as communities to organically work towards a better future.
To follow on, I think Gearhouse has done a great job of meeting some amazing people and then having them kind of become part of the community. Like, it definitely can't happen on the back of one person, and we've had people become lifelong friends, which makes it just that much more likely that they're going to continue to share gear rather than go purchase and stuff it in a closet.
How do you each reach community to grow the size of your community and the scale of what you're doing? And I realize you're both kind of startup phase, so I understand.
Yeah, if we had figured that out, then we'll have made it. But word of mouth spread is quite powerful for us. So having people tell their friends, and then conferences like this is really important. And then traditional advertising. But I think when something becomes recommended by a friend, it's the most powerful method by far.
Yeah, I would second that through relationships, I think, is the most powerful way to build community. And that's why our community outreach people are folks who have more lived experience. I moved to Seattle 2 years ago, so I'm not like local to the community, but I've also been actively building community by supporting other projects with aligned values. And then the hope is to like partner with those organizations. So we're bringing our networks and our potential to activate community together. And I've also, for past events I've hosted just on my own, like neighborhood flyering, like really, pulling on like the localization of this project and bringing it into people's awareness who might not otherwise be using social media or these other platforms that are more modern.
Wonderful. Evan, I see you're typing an answer in the chat, but it'd be great for everyone to see and hear the answer to the question, which is, do you provide specific events or opportunities for folks who are new to outdoor adventures. And I also saw one in the chat earlier. I don't know if you'd answered it about bringing what you're doing to other parts of the state. So if you answered that privately, it'd be great to answer it for everyone in the audience as well.
You're muted, Evan.
Thank you. We provide classes opportunities for all levels, which I think is the really fun part, is no matter where you are, we will take you, either help you indulge at that level or up level yourself. So for example, right now we're running an intro to backpacking course, but we've also done things like taken people that are existing skiers and taken them backcountry skiing, as well as just having self-generated community stuff where people are, maybe they have climbed indoors and they want to climb outside, or they want to become a better climber. So we kind of address all needs in that side of things. We love to take this elsewhere. Step one is to make it work in Seattle. And then we will look at expanding once we prove that it works here. But right now we are definitely buried under our own expenses at the moment. So working forward to get out of that burial.
Yes, I am sure. I have a question for you about the gear. When gear does get worn out and locks you in turn for items ultimately that you don't find a home for, what is your circular solution or end of life solution for some of those things? Or have you not gotten there yet?
We have not gotten there yet. A bag can always be made into a different type of bag if it's not suited for backpacking. Once it's lightweight, you can always add weight to make it more durable, which is kind of the cool part. So for that side of things, we have yet to throw something in the trash from a gear perspective. And we've taken a lot of things that people thought were broken and fixed them. And then they actually usually donate them at that point anyways. So we keep things in work for a much longer lifespan than they would otherwise.
Yeah, I love this question. I think it's really important to think of what happens beyond where we serve. And through our project, like the main way that we're like supporting things not ultimately going to the landfill is partnering with other organizations that might take things that we don't. So part of our purpose and why we say like gently used household goods or staples is like really to support people with accessing things that they will use. So our goal isn't entirely to save everything possible from the landfill, right? We want to be specific about where our area of impact is most powerful and stick within that. And we don't want to leave people hanging. If they come to donate things and we can't take them, we want to do our best to refer them to places that may. So we have a well-developed list of other organizations and recycling for specific types of materials that we'll share with our community members, as well as partnerships with like Bike Works or Seattle Recreative and places that we could know and communicate with directly about taking specific kinds of things that if they're not ready to be given away directly to people, we would want them to go to some place that will repair them or reuse them, and as well welcoming people to come to our repair events that we're planning to do quarterly. So if something's broken, they could get it fixed and then either donate it or continue to use it if it's functional.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much. I saw that there were some other questions coming in, so things might pop up in the Q&A, but we are out of time. Thank you both so much for being here.